My early childhood, like in Russia, was always music-based. We were always traveling, I was playing music. Basically, I learned how to hold a microphone before holding a baby bottle. I was 45 days old. My father was supposed to buy me some baby clothes. My father is a very special man and a rock star. And he was walking down the street. This other man was selling records, and at that time it was really hard to come by. It just happened to be so that my father had the exact amount of money that the record cost, so he bought the record. Supposedly, I started singing along. He was looking at me in shock. Who is this? Who's taking over this little body? Is it Janis Joplin or like something like that? So my dad actually carried me everywhere to all rehearsals and studio and concerts as well. Like I didn't know then, but I know now the people that I was surrounded by then that are like really well known, like Sun Ra Orchestra, for example. When they came to Russia, I was hanging out on stage. So coming to New York City was just part of the adventure. You always hear about the West, like, oh, in America there's chewing gum and bananas or something like that. And chocolate paved roads. You know, you arrive and then boom, it's like thievery. This man showed us an apartment, took our money and disappeared, so we were homeless. I remember being in the apartment. I remember the man vaguely, and then next thing I knew we didn't have a place to live. Like there is a photo of my mother playing trumpet, me, my brother, and my sister in Times Square. It's like a month after. You get through it because there's like balance within you somehow, and then music was our core. It was our spirituality, and it's just like that pure thing. When you are true to what you do, you are okay. And that's how we ended up in a squad called Umbrella House in Lower East Side. And everyone in the building were like photographers and painters and musicians, well-known people now that I didn't know then, like George Clinton, who I thought was the president because of his name, and he said, no, I'm not the president, that's Bill Clinton. The first places that I played in New York, the very first place was the Subway. Subway is like a great place to actually hone your skills and to test out. Especially in New York City, everybody's rushing somewhere. And if you can connect with people during that, that's something. So after being homeless and being accepted into the community in the squat, my father was going to play the Apollo Theater. And I think that day when he went to do the sound check, me and my brother were playing with fire and dropped the match, and the fire just started growing, and I tried to put it out with a wool sweater, which wasn't a good idea. So that is how we entered the Red Cross scenario. And they put us into a shelter in Brownsville, Brooklyn. We made friends with this Haitian gentleman, and he gave us this bass. It was a Hagstrom bass, 1962, beautiful red. I guess he figured if the bass maybe is not for me, you know, not for a girl kind of thing. I don't know, the bass called out to me, kind of. That's how it felt. I remember more people saying, oh, the bass is longer than you know. It never crossed my mind that way. I just connected with it and dug into it and spent many hours with it. My first gig was Central Park. on the bass. And that feeling of playing and people and connecting with people is just very powerful, very pure. So that was like a payoff to keep playing. Music was always our core, you know. So yeah, we survived by playing music, and blues is very much root of my life and my musicality. Actually, the first thing I started to play on the bass was blues. My father was the first to play blues in Russia, but even when I came to New York City, my first teacher was Johnny Johnson. So I spent a lot of time in Harlem, and he taught me like the blues scale, and blues is very spiritual music. It's kind of like your heartbeat and kind of connecting to people. Like, I grew up basically composing. I had that freedom. I wasn't forced to learn cover songs. It was a whole different mindset. Melody for me is what triggers emotions. So a lot of times, like, I could just pick up the bass or the guitar or the piano, and I just start. A lot of the bands that I've been in, it was more as a bass player, singing, but the more I started singing, the more I felt it, the more passion I felt for it, and I also felt the effect that it had. I make music because I feel it. New York City is a very special place, I think, on the planet. We have people from all over the world, all kinds of cultures and different music, and yeah, you could be walking down one street and hear salsa, or you could be walking down another street and hear reggae, or walk down another street and hear African music. If you pay attention to life's moments, you can hear a bird singing and it sounds like a song, or you can hear the wind and it makes you feel some type of way, or the sun shining on you. The J train is one of my favorite trains. To have a feeling of movement, to hear the sound of the train. And one of my favorite things is when there's two trains passing each other, like when you're on one train and the other train, and going over the Williamsburg Bridge, and you can see reflections, so you can see yourself, you can see the train going by, and then you can see the bridge, the structure of the bridge, and you can see the water, and it's just so beautiful. I'm doing a cover of two songs of this band called Aquarium that is very well known in Russia, a very important band for a lot of people, especially in the Soviet times. It's a band that helped people come together, and my father was part of that band. Times were really hard when they were playing music. They weren't even allowed to play music. There was no club to be able to play. They wouldn't be allowed to play in any club or record anywhere. Everything was done secretly. Everything was done underground. These two songs come from like very early stages. Like, as far as I know, there aren't even many recordings of it. I feel like it's a really interesting time to do these two songs again. Like, one is going to bring back perhaps a feeling and memory and purpose of people uniting. It feels like US and Russia to connect, you know? Yeah, and I feel like my father, feel like his job is being continued, his work here, you know, all the sacrifice that he's done, and it's really cool.